Hello, and welcome back. Welcome to a space where stories are not just told, but slowly revealed, where every detail matters, and every silence between words carries meaning. If you are here, then you are not just looking for a story, you are looking for something deeper. Something that makes you pause, think, question, and maybe see the world a little differently than before. Before we begin, take a moment, subscribe, because what you are about to experience is not just a story you listen to once, it is a journey you may return to, again and again. May not always realize it, but there are moments in life when you are looking directly at something and still you do not see it. Not because it is hidden, but because you were never taught how to see it. A painting, a symbol, a story that has been repeated for generations. You think you understand it because you have heard it before, you have seen it before, you have accepted it before. But what if that understanding is only surface level? What if the real meaning was never removed, but simply placed beneath what you were expected to see? This is the world of the Da Vinci Code, written by Dan Brown. A world where history is not just a record, but a construction, where art is not just beauty, but language, where symbols are not just decoration, but keys. The story begins in Paris, inside a place that represents humanity's trust in knowledge, a museum filled with masterpieces, works that have been studied, analyzed, and interpreted for centuries. But on this night, this place becomes something else. A man is running, not randomly, not without purpose, but with intention. Every step he takes is guided by something he knows, and something others do not. His breath is heavy, his movements are limited, but his mind is still working, still planning, still building something that will outlive him, because he knows this is the end. And when a person knows this is the end, they do not waste time on fear, they focus on meaning. In his final moments, he does not leave a message, he leaves a system. Numbers written out of order, symbols placed with precision, words that do not explain themselves. To anyone else, this looks like confusion, like chaos, like the final actions of a man in panic. But it is not. It is structure. And structure means one thing, intention. This is not a message for everyone. This is a message for someone who knows how to see. And that someone is about to enter the story. A man who does not just look at symbols, but reads them. A man who understands that history is not just events, but interpretations of events. When he is called into this situation, he does not expect to become part of it. But very quickly, that changes. Because the message left behind is not only a clue, it is a connection. And that connection points directly to him. From that moment, the story shifts. He is no longer observing. He is involved. And involvement changes everything. He is forced to move, to think quickly, to interpret under pressure. And he is not alone. A woman joins him, not as a helper, but as someone who has her own reasons, her own questions, her own history, connected to what is happening. And this is where the story deepens, because now, this is not just an investigation. It is personal, together. They begin to follow the clues. But this is not a straight path. Every clue leads to another, but also changes the meaning of the last. A number becomes a code becomes a location reveals a symbol, and that symbol opens an entire new layer of understanding. They move through Paris, but they are not just moving through a city. They are moving through history. Every street, every building, every object carries a meaning that most people never notice. And this is where the story becomes something else. Not just a mystery, but a journey into how meaning is hidden in plain sight. And slowly, very slowly, they begin to realize, this is not about one secret. This is about a system, a network of knowledge, passed down, protected, and sometimes misunderstood. And this system has survived, not by hiding, but by blending in, by existing in a form that people see, but do not question. And this is only the beginning. The moment they step deeper into that space, something subtle begins to change inside them. It is not fear, not in the traditional sense. It is awareness, the kind of awareness that does not arrive suddenly, but builds, layer by layer. As the mind starts to realize that it is no longer dealing with random events, but with a system, a structure, something designed with purpose and patience over time. The air feels heavier, not physically, but symbolically. As if the place itself is not just a location, but a container of ideas, of history, of intentions that have been left behind by minds that understood far more than they ever revealed directly. The man does not speak immediately. He observes. His eyes move slowly across the details, not skipping, not rushing, because he knows that in places like this, the smallest element can carry the greatest meaning. Lines, shapes, distances between objects. Even the way light falls through certain angles, none of it is accidental. And the more he looks, the more he begins to feel that what they are walking into is not just a series of clues, but a language. A complete language that has been designed to be read only by those who know how to see. The woman stands close, but her experience is different. She is not just analyzing, she is feeling. And that feeling is not random. It is familiar, disturbingly familiar. Like walking through a memory you do not fully remember, but somehow recognize. Her breath slows, not because she is calm, but because her mind is trying to connect something that has been hidden not in the world, but inside her own past. And this is where the story shifts again, from external discovery to internal recognition. Because the system they are following is not only based on symbols and history, it is also based on people, on connections, on identities that have been shaped long before this moment. The man finally speaks. But his voice is different now, lower, slower, more precise. He does not explain everything he sees. He shares only what matters, only what moves them forward, because he has understood something critical. In a system like this, over-explaining is as dangerous as misunderstanding. They move further inside, step by step. Their presence feels almost out of place. As if they are not just walking through a location, but through a thought that was never meant to be disturbed. And yet, they continue. Because now, there is no turning back. The next clue does not appear suddenly, it reveals itself gradually. First as a detail that does not seem important, then as a pattern, and finally, as a connection that changes the entire direction of their thinking. It is not something they find. It is something they realize. And that difference is everything. Because finding is passive, realizing is active. It requires engagement, interpretation, willingness to question what you thought you understood just moments ago. The symbol they are looking at now is more complex than the ones before, not because it is harder to see, but because it contains multiple layers of meaning. Each layer connected to a different context: history, religion, power structures, human belief. And the way all of these elements have interacted over time to create what people accept today as truth. The man begins to explain, but not as a teacher, as a guide. He does not give answers. He builds paths, paths that allow understanding to emerge naturally. And as he speaks, the woman begins to see it, not just hear it, see it, in her mind. The symbol is no longer static. It is dynamic. It moves, expands into ideas that she never fully considered before. And this is the moment where she changes. Not completely, not all at once, but enough. Enough to cross a line that cannot be uncrossed, because once you see meaning where you once saw nothing, you can never go back to seeing nothing again. Outside, time continues to move, and with it, the pressure builds. They are not alone in this search. They know that. They can feel it. Not directly, but through the urgency that now defines every decision they make. Every moment they spend thinking is a moment others are moving, and those others do not need to understand everything. They only need to interfere. And that is what makes this situation dangerous. Not just the complexity of the puzzle, but the presence of forces that operate without the need for understanding, only control. They return to the symbol again. But this time, they do not look at it as an object. They look at it as a message with intention. And when you focus on intention, rather than form, the meaning begins to shift. They ask a different question now, not what does this symbol represent, but why was this symbol chosen? And that question opens something new, because symbols are never neutral. They are selected, and selection implies purpose. The connection becomes clearer, slowly, carefully, like a lock turning after the right pressure is applied. And when it clicks, they both feel it. Not as excitement, but as certainty. The kind of certainty that does not need confirmation, the kind that comes from understanding. The next step is revealed. But it is not just a location. It is a shift in direction, a shift in the entire structure of the journey, because what they are about to follow next is not just a continuation. It is a deeper entry into the system, a layer that was never meant to be reached quickly or easily. They move again. But this time, the movement is different. More focused, more precise, less doubt, more awareness. And with every step, they are not just getting closer to an answer, they are moving further away from the world they understood before this night began, and closer to a version of reality where nothing is as simple as it once seemed, where every truth has a structure, and every structure has a purpose. They do not speak as they move, not because there is nothing to say, but because words, at this point, begin to feel insufficient. When you are inside a system that was designed with such precision, such depth, you start to understand that language itself is limited. And that is why symbols were used in the first place, because symbols can hold multiple meanings at once, without losing their structure, without being reduced to a single interpretation. Their steps echo softly against the floor, a rhythm that feels almost synchronized with their thinking, slow, deliberate, controlled. They are no longer moving like people who are lost, they are moving like people who are being guided. And this realization, it does not come from evidence, it comes from feeling. A pattern that is too consistent to be random, too precise to be accidental. The man pauses again, but this time, not to analyze, to listen. Not for sound, but for structure, for the way space is organized around them, for the possibility that even the silence has been designed. And this is where his understanding shifts further, because he begins to realize that they have been looking at symbols as individual clues, when in reality, the entire environment is the symbol. The room, the position of objects, the distances, the alignments, all of it forms a single message. A message that cannot be read from one angle, but must be experienced, moved through, understood in motion. He turns slightly, changes his position, and suddenly what looked random begins to align. Lines connect, shapes form, patterns emerge. And for a brief moment, the entire space transforms, from a location into a language. The woman sees it too, not because she was told, but because she felt the shift. This is the difference between being shown and truly seeing. She steps closer. Her eyes follow the same lines, the same connections, and what once felt overwhelming now feels structured. This is not chaos, this is design, and design always has intention. They follow this new understanding, not quickly, but with precision. Because now, every step matters more. Every movement can change perspective, and perspective is everything. As they adjust their position again, a new element reveals itself. Something that was there all along, but invisible without the correct angle. And this is when the next realization strikes. The system does not hide things by removing them. It hides them by placing them in plain sight, but out of alignment. And only when you find the right position, the right way of seeing, does everything come together. The symbol they now see is not isolated. It is connected to everything around it. And this connection points forward, but not in a straight line. In a direction that requires trust. Because there is no clear confirmation, no simple indication that they are right. Only understanding. And sometimes, understanding is the only guide you have. The woman hesitates for a moment, not out of fear, but out of weight. She is beginning to realize that this journey is not just about discovery, it is about her past, her connection, her place in something much larger than she ever imagined. And that realization, it does not feel light. It feels heavy, because it means that everything she thought was complete was only partial, and everything she did not understand was never random. The man notices this shift, but he does not interrupt it, because some understandings cannot be explained, they must be felt, and once they are felt, they become part of you, they continue. The next space they enter is different, not in size, not in structure, but in meaning. It feels like a transition, a threshold, as if they have moved from one layer of the system into another. The details here are more subtle, less obvious, more abstract. And this is where many would fail, Because the human mind seeks clarity, seeks direct answers, seeks patterns that are easy to recognize. But this system does not reward simplicity. It rewards depth. The man closes his eyes for a brief moment, not to rest, but to reset, to clear the surface layer of thinking and allow something deeper to emerge. When he opens them again, he is not looking at details, he is looking at relationships. How one element connects to another, how space interacts with form, how position creates meaning. And slowly, very slowly, the next pattern begins to form. Not completely, not clearly, but enough to move forward. They do not need full understanding yet. They need direction, and that direction is now present. Faint, but real. They follow it, knowing that with every step, the system is not just revealing itself, it is testing them, testing their ability to see, to think, to trust what they understand, even when it is not fully confirmed. And as they move deeper, one thing becomes certain. This path was never meant for many. It was meant for those who would not stop at the first answer, those who would continue, even when the meaning was not immediately clear, those who would look longer, think deeper, and question further. And now, they are part of that path, whether they chose it or it chose them. The path they follow now does not feel like a continuation anymore. It feels like descent, not into darkness, but into depth, into layers of meaning that were always there, but never accessed in this way before. Every step forward carries less certainty and more understanding, that these clues were never meant to guide them in a straight line, but to restructure the way they think completely. They enter a final space, quieter than the others, not empty, but controlled, as if everything inside it has been arranged with absolute intention. Nothing feels random, nothing feels decorative, everything feels functional. The man stops, not because he is lost, but because he understands. This is the final alignment, the point where all previous layers connect. The woman stands beside him, but her silence is different now. It is not confusion, it is awareness. The kind that arrives when you realize that you have been part of something far larger than your own understanding. The final symbol is not hidden. It is integrated into the structure itself, a design that only makes sense when you stop seeing individual parts and start seeing the whole system. And when they do, everything becomes clear, not as a single answer, but as a complete shift in perspective. The message was never about a treasure or a single secret. It was about the idea that truth can exist in multiple layers, and that what humanity accepts as history is only one version among many possible ones. The man finally speaks, not with certainty, but with understanding, that some truths do not need to be declared, they only need to be recognized. The woman closes her eyes for a moment, not to escape, but to accept, because she now understands that some knowledge does not simply add to you, it changes you. And slowly, the system they have been following reveals its final intention. Not to hide, not to destroy, but to preserve, in a way that only those will find it who are willing to see differently. They begin to walk out, but the experience does not end with the exit. It stays, not as memory, but as shifted perception. Because once you see structure in what others call random, once you see design in what others call chaos, you can no longer return to ignorance. And now, the story no longer belongs to them. It belongs to you. Because the real question was never about what they found, it was about what you are still not seeing in your own understanding of history, of symbols, of the world around you. What have you accepted without question? What have you seen without interpreting? And what truths exist around you in plain sight, waiting for a different way of seeing? And if this story has changed even a small part of how you think, then it has already done more than enough. Thank you for being part of this journey, and until the next story, stay curious, stay questioning, and never stop looking beyond what is obvious.